All right. And just waiting for that Facebook Live to go live. But in the meantime, just to address the slide and the registration that you may have gone through to get to tonight's meeting, in order to meet our promise of a Beltline for all, we are working to collect demographic and geographic information from our participants. We want you to know that this information is strictly for internal reference and research purposes. It will be used to guide us in our outreach and public engagement efforts. It will not be distributed to other organizations. So we just wanted to kind of give you a little context behind that for you. And just checking with my team here, and it looks like we are live on Facebook. So let's go ahead and rock and roll. All right. So, my name is Nathan Solat. I'm the Director of Community Engagement, and you are attending a Northside Study Group meeting. Tonight, we're going to be discussing construction updates for the Northwest Trails, segments 1 and 5. We really appreciate your participation in tonight's virtual public meeting. We have enabled live transcription, so if you'd like to view this option, please click Live Transcript at the bottom of your screen, and this will allow you to select that preference. At this time, I will provide an overview of the meeting. So tonight, looks like we are joined by approximately 17 participants on the Zoom platform. We're also broadcasting live, as I mentioned earlier, on Facebook. If you're watching on the Zoom platform or Facebook Live, you can follow along on the agenda at the top of each, or excuse me, the top or bottom of each slide. I'm not sure which template we used. If you're listening by phone, I'll walk you through the meeting agenda now. Our agenda tonight is open with a welcome and a few meeting logistics. We will follow this with audience polling and a Beltline 101. After that, we'll have a presentation about the Northwest Trail segments 1 through 5, 1 and 5. That would be exciting, but no, just 1 and 5 tonight. And we're going to follow that by questions, comments, and conversation. You've probably noticed by now that your line is muted. You will not be able to share your screen during the meeting. This is to provide the best listening experience for everyone online. A recording of this meeting, the presentation, and all other supporting materials will be made available online at beltline.org/meetings. If you experience any technical difficulties during the meeting, please email engage@atlbeltline.org. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we certainly appreciate your patience as we sort them out. So let's go ahead and jump into our standard polling questions. We'd like to get a virtual sense of the room here. The first question being, what neighborhood do you live in? Single choice. You see all the neighborhoods closest to segments 1 and 5. Perhaps you're in a Beltline neighborhood that is just outside of this list, or it's in the city of Atlanta but not on this list. Maybe you're not in a Beltline neighborhood, but you live in the city of Atlanta, or perhaps you're outside the city limits of Atlanta. So we'll try to get at least 70% participation if possible before we close it out. And it looks like we've hit that. So we'll go ahead and close that out. We have representation from Blandtown, a lot of representation from Peachtree Hills, Beltline neighborhood outside in the city of Atlanta, not on the list, and a neighborhood in the city of Atlanta, not on the list. We'll go to the next slide. All right. So real easy here, single choice. How long have you lived in your neighborhood? 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 11 or more years? Again, striving for that at least 70% participation. So go ahead and click away. All right, and we can go ahead and lock that in. Looks like we have about 36% of the room at 1 to 5 years, 29% of the room 6 to 10 years, and 36% of the room 11 or more years. Next slide. What is your relationship to the Atlanta Beltline? Now, this is a multiple choice, so the percentages won't add up. Go ahead and select a few that best pertain to you. Are you a trail user, a homeowner in a Beltline neighborhood? Do you rent a home in a Beltline neighborhood? Perhaps a residential landlord in a Beltline neighborhood, a business owner in a Beltline neighborhood, commercial landlord in a Beltline neighborhood, a developer, a real estate broker, a community activist or advocate, or just, do you have general interest in the Beltline project as a whole? We're getting lots of participation. I'm going to let folks spend a little more time in case they want to select more than one option here. All right, and we can go ahead and lock that one in. We have a high percentage of trail users, homeowners, and general interest in the project. We also have some renters, a residential landlord, a business owner as well. So we'll go to the next slide. What are you most likely to be doing on the trail? All right. So this is also multiple choice. It's not going to add up perfectly, but we got exercising or recreation, running errands, getting to work or school, engaging in leisurely activities, or perhaps you don't use a trail. All right, let's go ahead and lock that one in as well. We have top response, exercising and recreation, followed by leisurely activities. We have some errand runners in third place, and some commuters to work and school in fourth place. Everybody seems to be using the trail. Last polling question. Is tonight your first Beltline meeting? Simple yes or no, single choice on this one. Should be able to lock this in real quick. And let's lock that in. So we do have a large percentage of folks who've been to a Beltline meeting before, but we have at least 5 individuals who have identified this as their first Beltline public meeting. So welcome everyone, but a special welcome to our new guests here in the room. For the old timers and our new guests, we also like to ground the room with a Beltline 101, if I can get it out of my mouth. We do know that we're focusing on the trail tonight, but the Beltline means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Ultimately, the Beltline is a transportation project. It's a mobility project. The idea was to connect 45 plus diverse neighborhoods with some form of rail transit in a 22-mile loop by repurposing old rail corridors. A lot of other things kind of got added onto that, including the trail network we'll be talking about tonight. But ultimately, the Beltline's vision is to be the catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable life. We are trying to reconnect these neighborhoods that were cut off by the railroad infrastructure, bringing communities together. We are doing this through the transportation network, but we also have goals of 1,300 acres of new green space. Atlanta is one of the most underparked cities, despite all the trees, of its size in the country. So we're looking to really increase our green space. As we move around the corridor, we're always doing environmental cleanup. I mean, these were old freight railroad corridors, a lot of industrial uses. That's a big part of our project as well. At the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a few other goals that we have. We have a goal of 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing. These are all goals by the year 2030. $10 billion in economic development, 50,000 permanent jobs, and 48,000 one-year temporary or one-year construction jobs, not temporary. Really just bringing Atlanta together is the goal of the Beltline. So we should all be grounded at this point, and it is my pleasure to introduce Megan NJ Chalk. She's going to tell us a little bit about, or excuse me, Jay, I think is going to go first. Sorry, segment one. He's going to tell us a little bit about what he and the team have been up to over there in Peachtree Hills and Brookwood, constructing segment one of the Northwest Trail. Jay?
Thanks a lot, Nathan. And I was glad to see the participation there for all the people that are in the Peachtree Hills neighborhood, because you're living through it right now, and we appreciate your patience on both Peachtree Park Apartments as well as in the neighborhood over there. Next slide, please. So when we talk about segment one, everybody, pretty familiar with segment one at this point of the Northwest Corridor. It starts off at Peachtree Park Drive at the entrance to Peachtree Park Apartments. It makes its way through the apartment complex. It crosses over Peachtree Creek, and then it goes into the creek basin over there and travels down the length of the creek over to Kinsey Court, which will eventually connect into Northeast Trail 3. Next slide, please. So Zone 1, the area we call Zone 1, is essentially from Peachtree Park Drive to Peachtree Creek. What's important to understand about the way that we've kind of worked our way into this segment is because the creek being in the middle of the two zones, what we're trying to do is we try to, in the first month or two, to get to the creek as quickly as possible. because if you think about our timeline for construction on this segment, most of the timeline is actually taken up by doing the suspension bridge that we have planned over Peachtree Creek. So our objective was to get to the creek, and then what we're doing is, in order to keep the corridor as narrow as possible, we get to the creek, we build the bridge, and then we work our way back out in both directions. So in the area Peachtree Creek Drive to Peachtree Creek, I'm sorry, Peachtree Park Drive to Peachtree Creek, that is at Peachtree Park Apartments. And what we're working on back there is essentially what we call enabling work. And I'll show you a couple of slides of that. Stormwater structure installation, all the underground work. We've started on the bridge work. And we're working on walls, and we've already removed all of the trees that are coming down. And we still have a ways to go, obviously. Most of the stuff that we're doing in the zones is underground work and infrastructure work to get the trail started. Next slide, please. So when I say enabling work, these are the things that we do that you may not even be aware of once the trail is built. But in order for us to gain space through Peachtree Park Apartments, what we had to do was do things like on the right hand, we had to take down the existing stairs on these two units and replace them and reconfigure them so that we could gain space to get the trail in. And then on the left-hand side, because the trail will be taking up parking spaces, existing parking spaces, we had to build a new parking lot in Peachtree Park Apartments to replace the displaced parking. Next slide, please. Once we get to the back into the bridge at Peachtree Creek, what we're working on back there is we've built all the foundations now, the deep foundations that take us down to rock for the suspension bridge or the cable bridge that we're going to be building back there. And we've started to put in the foundations that are more at the surface level. We put in both main foundations as well as the first anchor block back there where the cables will tie to. What's really exciting about this section here with the cable bridge is that we're within about 2.5 weeks of our first deliveries of steel. This bridge is fabricated offsite, and we're bringing them in. So the towers for the suspension bridge will be placed here in the next 30 days. Next slide, please. And then, of course, on the Peachtree Hill side, we have created our path to get to the creek from this side as well. We did all the tree removal early on, got our silt fence in place, and this is how we're accessing the foundations for the trail at the end, at the creek down there. Again, one of the ways that we looked at doing this which was unique about this section is that because we were down in that basin, we kept the trail path as narrow as possible. And I know if you go down there and you look, you say, well, is that really narrow? But I can promise you, once you put an 18-foot wide trail in here, you'll realize how much we threaded this through the existing tree line. We finished the clearing and the grubbing back there. We built the construction road, and we're currently working on underground storm detention, especially up there near Kinsey Court, where we're now capturing water that comes down Kinsey Court that was never captured before and spilled right into the greenway. We're now directing all of that. And then we'll be working on elevated trail foundations. Again, the idea is that we're just going to work our way backwards. Once we get the bridge built out of this area, we'll build the elevated structure on our way out of the greenway. Next slide, please. All right, I think we're ready for Megan.
Thanks, Jay. All right. Sorry if there's a dog barking in the background. So this is Northwest Trail, segment 5, going through Blandtown, connecting to the West Side Beltline, what we call segment 3, which is the Marietta Boulevard segment. And it connects all the way up to what will be Northwest Segment 4 around Fairmont and English Avenue. Not a long segment per se, but it goes from public right of way into corridor along two pretty busy streets near Marietta Boulevard and Ellsworth Industrial. Next slide. All right, so we've broken it up into zones. So zone 1 goes from Fairmont to Ellsworth. The work scope is pretty ongoing right now. You guys have seen probably some of the movement through here. We've got stormwater structural installations going on. There is some bridge work, which I think I show in a different slide, that's in the center of this. And with that bridge, we will be doing some wall pouring. Currently, we're working on a lot of soil remediation in this area towards Fairmont. We're almost done with that. And we've finished all of our tree removals for this segment. Debris removal is kind of ongoing. And right now you can see we're grading for the actual trail elevation here. We've also installed the duct bank in this segment so far. So remaining, we've still got trail paving to go, obviously, lighting and cameras that will be done with that. Planting that will be done this time next year is when we would start tree planting. So what we will see in this section, probably from when it opens in Q2 of 2025, is grass stabilizing. So really we're working to start pouring trail in this area as soon as possible, working on the bridge. And also there is a ramp and wall that comes down from the connection at Ellsworth Industrial, that if you're on the road right now, you can see it starting to happen, starting to clear. So next slide. The big thing and the big topic that's really going to affect people in the neighborhood is the intersection of Ellsworth and Elaine. This will be an intersection improvement, not just for the Beltline crossing, not just to really slow down a lot of the vehicular and truck traffic really in this section, but also for the connectivity of the Beltline and the Woodall Trail that was just completed by PATH and Upper West Side CID. To the right of your screen is where the Beltline will actually connect over. So we're kind of that bottom crosswalk. You've got the Woodall Trail coming in the top right, or sorry, top left. And the intersection itself has lost basically the parking lane in this area. So it's lost some weight. It's a little bit skinnier than what a lot of people are used to. What you see that is graded now on a lane is really the width that you can expect for us to set. I think we've already got the majority of the curbing installed there. But this intersection is raised, which means we're going to need a full closure of the intersection in order to do this work. It takes 24 hours to cure this concrete. I just finished one much larger and different material at 10th and Monroe. This one should go a lot smoother. We learned a lot of lessons on that one, but we're expecting and we're trying to get it down to a 3 to 4 day maximum full closure, or even just a 2-day full closure with some partial closures. And so we're slowly getting the detour maps and everything we need to present to the city. So the next meeting that we have with the community, I should have those dates pretty much nailed down. And what we'll have is a date for the full closure. We'll also have a backup date. Nathan, you could have gone to the next slide. There you go. So we'll also have a backup date, and that should be available in our next meeting. We try to get at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks heads up to the community if we do a full closure. Next slide. All right. So this is zone 2, Elaine Avenue. Again, you can still kind of see the intersection I was just talking about. Right now we're doing a lot of stormwater installations. We're working on the install and finishing up of the curb line. With that, there's going to be, a lot of grading for getting the trail just right. We did find an unexpected utility that has kind of delayed this segment from being completed. And so we're working around that right now. I think we've finally come to a design agreement for what we're going to be doing. This is really just affects the turn at Marietta and Elaine. So we're moving pretty quickly now that we've gotten that figured out. Ongoing, you'll be seeing us out there doing grading work. Like I said, the intersection and roadway work. Hopefully by late March, probably early April, we'll start trail paving in this area, and then we'll follow that up with lighting cameras. There is a guardrail that will be through some of this space that matches the one on Marietta Boulevard. And again, this will get planted in the next planting season, so this time next year. Next slide. Zone 3, Marietta Boulevard. So this is the continuation of the existing trail at Huff. Right now, we're just doing some wall installations, the grading that will go along with that. You're basically going to see a cut and paste of what is along Marietta Boulevard for the most part, in terms of what the trail will feel like in this segment. And this is hopefully going to be completed in the third quarter of 2025. Next slide. And we skip around really because this is our laydown yard and where our construction trailer is located at the space between Fairmont and English Avenue. We'll hopefully start this sometime in April. It might be pushed back, I'm not sure, but this is kind of more of a park-like trail through here. There will be some park elements. There's a swing bench in here. There's some open green space. There's also going to be a lot more trees than originally presented because we did have to move trees from Lane somewhere else on the job site, and this seemed like a really good spot for us to do that. So hopefully we will start some of this work in April, and this will be the last zone to be completed in the fourth quarter of 2025. I think that's all my slides.
All right. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Megan. This is going to be our Q&A portion of the evening, so let me go ahead and get things set up real quick here. All right, so we're going to discuss how you can participate. We're going to take as many live questions as time permits, but if we're not able to address every question live, or if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with a written document posted on our website addressing it. Turnaround time for the document is based on the number of unanswered questions, but we got quite a bit of time, so we're hoping to get through this. We have folks on Zoom, we have phone attendees, and we have Facebook Live attendees. So let's just briefly cover how we can contribute to this conversation. So if you're on the phone and you wanted to speak, go ahead and hit *9 on your telephone keypad. Effectively, this raises your hand to me. I can see that you are looking to make a comment or ask a question. Once I open your line, so to speak, you hit *6, it'll tell you that in your ear, and that will unmute yourself. If you're on our Zoom platform, go ahead, you can submit responses anytime in the Q&A box. In addition, you can upvote someone else's response by clicking the thumbs up icon. You can raise your hand, but do keep in mind that we will prioritize our phone attendees as they don't have access to the Zoom platform. Facebook Live out there, we are connected to you as well. You can participate in the comment section. Someone on our staff will try to address your question. If they're not able to do so, they will elevate that to me and we'll mix it right into the larger conversation. So you'll be able to fully participate as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A. I see at least one. Thank you, Brian. I'm happy to be back. So we'll see if folks, I saw some hands raised earlier. Let me just take a look and see if we have any of that at this point. I don't see anything. And let's see. Let me know if we get any Facebook questions, but this is your time, guys. Go ahead and submit away. So from Richard, was any archaeological archaeological survey work conducted along Northwest Segment 1?
Yeah, I can answer that. So what they do is we do what we call a phase one work, and we hire a group to come out and take a look at and they look at the possibility of that based on record researches and things like that. And we did not find anything out there that warranted going to a phase two. So yes, that was done. But there was most of the land we're working through in that area is all virgin land. So
Thanks, Jay. Why don't you keep yourself unmuted? Next question is the Beltline going to refresh the cul-de-sac at Kinsey Court after construction is complete?
yeah, actually, I think you're going to be happy with the way that we leave it. You know, a lot of times what you'll hear is somebody say, we'll leave it in the condition that we found it, but that won't be the case here. We're putting in all new stormwater detention area. We're directing stormwater. We're putting in, you know, curbs along. We have a plaza that we're building over there. So we are you know, in great shape to make that look even better than it did when we got there.
Jay, all right, Brian, I see your hand up. So if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, go ahead.
Yes. Um, I don't know if this the right section, but you know when you go up towards like at Joseph E. Boone, where does the trail go next to connect to Bankhead and all that to get to this segment? Is this the right class or is this which section is that in?
That's West Side 4. That's when you're fortunate because that's a section I'm working on as well. It comes across, it goes from Mason Turner across to Boone, and then goes by Azalea Gardens, and then catches the Kudzu Trail and makes its way up to Donnelly Hollowell. And the connection between Donnelly Hollowell to Bankhead MARTA station is being taken by I can't remember if it's GDOT is doing it or MARTA. One of the two is doing a light connection between the two.
Thank you, Jay. All right, this will be probably for you, Jay. Are there any timing updates to connect segment 1 to the rest of the Beltline?
On segment 1, yeah, you're correct on both ends. You know, segment 1 is its own thing right now. From what I understand, on the east side, Northeast Trail 3 will be the connector to the rest of the Beltline on that side, and they're trying to get that out. Cynthia might know more about that schedule, but I believe it's by the end of the year they'll be starting construction on that piece. Is that correct, Cynthia?
That is correct. We're going through some GDOT permitting issues right now. And we're hoping to get that out either late April or early summer for bid and starting construction hopefully by the end of the year for that segment.
And then on the other end, the west end of segment 1, the connection to that obviously is Northwest 2. And the piece that's the missing piece of the puzzle there is obviously connecting underneath Peachtree Street. And that's tied to the GDOT project where they're going to replace the bridge over the railroad there. And I sit in on those meetings monthly, and they are on schedule to begin that work next year. So as soon as they finish, we're going to bring the trail to the other side from Bobby Jones. So as soon as they finish and give us our spot for the trail, we're going to put it in. So that's probably going to be one of the last pieces we work on.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Cynthia. Nick, Nick's the question, sorry. Do any of these segments have plans for transit in the future? Not exactly. I mean, if you want to think about, again, the Beltline is a 22-mile loop. The Northwest is kind of funky because we don't have an abandoned railroad corridor. So the trail and the transit diverge for the most part in the Northwest. Now, the good news is we're actually working on transit planning in the Northwest through our Beltline Transit Study. If somebody could put in the chat beltline.org/transit, and if you go to that link, Nick, and you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll find a link to the Atlanta Beltline Transit Study. That's going to give you a sense as to how that study is coming, when alignments are being considered, and late April or maybe all the way up into May, we'll be coming out with a draft proposal there. Now, that's just a planning study. There's no funding at this time for implementation, final engineering, or design, but it will give you a sense as to how the trail and the future transit could relate to each other. Anyone else from the team want to add anything on the transit question? All right. So Chuck asks, if so, what is the final design for lighting at night and/or security measures? I don't know. This is sort of generally for our trails, Chuck, but that's how we're going to address it. Let us know if we got that off. Megan or Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, and Megan might know more information than I do, but basically the trail in the Northwest will be consistent with the rest of the trail, where we have lights spaced at integrals in it, and it also has they're on motion, and they'll be on all the time. They'll be, electrified all the time, but only will come on at night if there's somebody in the hitting the motion. And then as far as cameras go, they also are the same as what we have all over the trail, which are wired directly back to APD. And then the other component of security is path force, which is the people who patrol the trail. Yeah, it's going to be very consistent with what you've seen throughout the rest of the trail.
This is a comment from Jim. I don't know if the old 18-wheel depot on Huber Street is active, and if not, wouldn't it be a very cool skate park with multi-levels that could be left alone and just smoothed over? I don't think we control that property, but I appreciate the comment, Jim. Team, let me know if I'm off on that one. From Griffin, where is the storm water being directed from those detention ponds? Directly into the creek, or allowing it to be soaked into the surrounding land to then make its way to the creek?
Yeah, so the cool thing about what we're doing is what I call it, we've really embraced the green infrastructure. And what I mean by that is a whole lot less conveyance into the storm systems and a whole lot more hold and let it re-energize the aquifers and re-energize the ground. Some of the water will make its way to the creek, but the vast majority of it goes through what is essentially a holding area, bioretention, which not only holds the water, but also provides the ability to clean the water, so that because a lot of it comes off the roads, a lot of it comes off of that kind of thing. So we're cleaning the water as well as holding it so that you don't get as much runoff.
Jay, what is the proposed completion date of segment 1?
June of 2026.
Right, and then from Tony, thanks for all the information updates. Would you be able to provide an update on the short section of segment 3 that is currently under construction? Jay, I think.
Yep, that one's mine. So segment 3, that little piece that's under construction, should be finished here in the next month and a half to 2 months at the most. I didn't put any pictures in here, but most of the trail is poured. The lights are standing, the cameras are wired. We'll be doing landscaping here over the next month or so. We're trying to get it in before the heat of the summer. It's gonna open, but the real kicker there is that behind the old Myers carpet, there's an old metal shed building that they're making into an event space for Monday Night Brewery, and that's gonna finish sometime June or July. So we may hold off and open at the same time, just depending on how they're coming. But I think our stuff will be ready here in the next month and a half.
Right. Is it possible to look at transcripts of past Beltline meetings? Not exactly transcripts, but kind of almost. We do record our meetings on Facebook Live. We'll go ahead and put the link in the chat there to our previous 8 or 9 meetings. If you want to go like farther back in history, you can go to our Facebook page, and we actually have the closed caption on, so that you should be able to read it as well as listen if you prefer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you or give you the ability there, Brian, if you want to ask your question.
Yes, I had two questions. The first question is, because we're in a new administration, however, and I know we're trying to, before 2030, have everything complete as far as trail. So are y'all running into any like obstacles or anything as far as funding with completing the projects on time, or is it too early to tell right now? That's my first question.
Okay, let's
Thank you.
hold and answer that question, and I'm going to put you on mute, and we'll come back to your second question in a moment. Kentia, do you want to handle that, or anyone else from the team?
Sure, we do realize that we are tied to a lot of federal funding on our projects, especially when we're focusing on the Northeast Trail Segment 3 project. Honestly, that is a realization for Atlanta Beltline. So we are looking at how the new administration is impacting our funding, our projects, and currently planning accordingly with the resources that we do have and making sure that we are able to complete all of our trail segments by 2030.
Kentia. All right, we're going to pull one up from Facebook Live. The question is from Philip. For segment 5 on Marietta Boulevard, the early presentations showed the street would be narrowed. Is that still part of the plan so that the crossing will be shorter than currently at the end of the West Side Trail at Huff Road? Megan?
Yes and no. Jay, feel free to step in too. He knows a lot of the details about this. So right now, Marietta Boulevard is 2 lanes north, 3 lanes south, and one of them kind of turns into a turning lane when it goes to a lane. And our proposed, it's not our proposed, our construction drawings narrow Marietta, 2 lanes south, 2 lanes north. There's also a southbound left turn lane that's going to be added in. So yes, we do take some right of way. It's not a huge amount in terms of what you see out there now, but we're trying to skinny it up in order to at least, well, especially on that turn in a lane, to slow down a lot of the truck traffic there. We're also making a lot of adjustments to that curb line, probably even based on what you've seen turning to a lane. We're trying to figure out how to accommodate. We know trucks are going to turn in and out of there. So how do we accommodate that while still, keeping the narrowness as much as we can between curb lines on both the lane and in Marietta Boulevard.
Megan?
I hope that answers it.
Yeah, if not, Philip, if you'll just respond in the comments in Facebook, we'll elevate the follow-up question. From Ian, is there a plan to connect segment 1 to Armor Drive, Jay?
Segment 1 won't connect to Armor Drive, but I believe, I can't say for sure, but I was thinking Northeast 3 does. But
It does. So one of the connector trails for Northeast Trail Segment 3, so Jay's project, the Northwest Trail Segment 1 is actually on the west side of Kinsey. So once you head east and head south on past Peachtree Creek, one of the connector trails does connect Armor Drive and turns over south on, I can't remember the name of that street, Clayton Drive. So that project that I spoke of earlier that we're trying to put out for bid, hopefully by mid this year, that connector trail will be included as part of that project.
Thank you, Kenthia. All right, Megan, you're back up. Question from Elizabeth. When will you know the dates for the 2 to 4 day full closure of Ellsworth at a lane? How will you all get the word out to residents and businesses? We're happy to help. Also, can you use variable messaging signs at the Chattahoochee and Ellsworth intersection ahead of time to help people prepare for it? And I'll just jump in right at the top. I believe that's Blandtown, right, Megan? Yeah. So we'll definitely send out a message to Blandtown Neighborhood Association. I'll let you kind of tag on here, Megan, with the variable message.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to read my current schedule while still talking at the same time.
About you more time.
We we are right now just starting the permitting process. And the getting detours drawn up, getting detours approved by ATL DOT. So we've got probably, I would say, minimum 4 weeks before we know the exact dates. I try to get out 3 weeks beforehand with a meeting. We will also obviously reach out to you, Elizabeth, and Upper West Side CID, and any other business districts in the area. But we will have the message boards out. The city likes us to have them out for a full closure. I think it's 2 weeks beforehand. We try to get them out as soon as we know the dates, just prompting people that this is going to happen and that they're going to need to change their route in and out, especially for the truck traffic. We will post the detours on our website, and I'll probably be walking around to any of the businesses surrounding the intersection that'll be affected, because there is that in and out right there at Forsyth Fabrics that we're trying to kind of schedule around business days. We cannot pour the concrete at night right now, but anything is up for debate at this point. So we should know in the next 3 to 4 weeks the exact dates and timing.
Yeah, and attached with the community meeting that we're going to host, which will get out usually 2 weeks in advance notice on that. That goes out to our entire email distribution list, almost 30,000 residents, or people who signed up, I should say. So, but yeah, we'll definitely make sure that you have that as well, Elizabeth, to get the word out through your vast networks on the Upper West Side. Thank you so much. Question from Brian: where does the trail connect at Shirley Clark Franklin Park? Recently declared from Westside Park. Megan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So Elizabeth and Upper West Side CID will be working. They received a grant that is working on the connectivity there along Marietta and West Marietta to get into the park. We currently actually are working in the park with the bike park design right now. So we're actually looking at how to make sure the existing sidewalks that we have to move around connect to where they're coming in along West Side or along West Marietta. So it's not really our project, but I think Upper West Side CID might have some updates coming soon, if not already. Yeah.
Right, Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your second question as you referenced earlier.
Yes, my question is about the presentations. I know each segment is different in each section. What is connecting connecting the trail from like different segments. What will help is some wayfinding, like when you present like the areas of the trail, like what part of, like, could you like circle it in the little snippet so that way you can have the visuals? That was my follow-up question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've done that in some situations. I'm thinking Megan Northeast Trail. We did that with some of our drawings. But we could probably
Yeah,
have that.
that's a really good comment.
It is.
And
Yeah.
yes,
The segment, of course, the Northwest, it's a lot of twists and turns and all that, so that way we can have the visuals.
Right.
Yeah. We'll work
All
on
right.
it. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, thank you. Next question is going to be coming from Jay Barfield. There are a few GDOT projects in the design concept, I guess, phase that impact Northside Drive from I-75 interchange going south. Does ABI coordinate with GDOT on these projects when they're in the design phase, especially around items like sidewalks and crosswalks near the Beltline? I hear design. I'm going to throw this to Jay and see if he wants it.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about that one. So that's in Northwest Segment 3, where we're doing the bridge over Northside Drive. And the answer to your question is absolutely we coordinate with GDOT, mainly because we have three. On that one section, we have 3 GDOT permits that we have to get. One for the bridge itself, one for the road improvements on North Side that we're going to be putting in, and then one for when we go under the underpass at I-75. So we're constantly working with them. And to answer your question, the roadway modifications that we're talking about doing on North Side as part of our project will interconnect those missing pieces of sidewalk, mainly from Deering on the west side of Northside Drive, from Deering all the way underneath the CSX bridge. We're going to be adding a sidewalk, and we'll be doing some sidewalk work on the other side as well. But that missing piece will be super important. And also down at the Atlanta Technology Center entrance, we're going to be putting in a light so that you come across, you can cross from the west side to the east side down there at the bottom of the hill with a pedestrian sequence in that light. So lots of road improvements down there. And that's one of the reasons why we are, segment 3 is a little bit further behind than the other segments, is because if you've ever permitted through the GDOT, it takes a minute. Also, kind of exciting as if you're down on North Side right now in that same area, you'll see the utility work that's going on. That's actually our utility work that we're doing in preparation for the bridge. We're getting a jump on that kind of work, getting the lines down, putting them underground, so that when we're ready to go, we're ready to go. And we're not saying, okay, we got the go ahead, and then we have a year of working on power lines.
Thanks, Jay, on that. This is not really Northwest Trail, but we'll try to cover it. Brian, Cynthia, or anyone else on the team, how will we connect to Lindbergh? And I know that's Northeast Trail.
Yeah, that's the Northeast Trail 3 project that we spoke of earlier. So there will be connectivity once we get north of the Armour Drive district, heading towards, I believe that's the Atlanta Arts District. I can't remember the exact name of it. But we're going to connect up near Garson Drive. We're going to do some road improvements on the south and west side of Garson, and we'll make connectivity up from Garson over to the Lindbergh MARTA station. So that's once we start that project and complete that connectivity, that's how you get to Lindbergh.
All right, thank you so much. Anything else you need to, let me see if I can read this right. Anything else you need GDOT with to get the ball rolling? We know the GDOT process can be long.
So I'll jump in on that one. I was being facetious that yes, it's long, but we have planned that. We have planned those durations into our schedule. So we're currently on all sections of the Northwest Trail. We have exited the drawing phase, the design phase, and we're now in procurement, land procurement, as well as permitting. So we've been working on the permits for GDOT for several months now, and we're actually seeing the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. I would say we're within a month and a half of getting 2 of the 3 permits. And then the 3rd permit we'll do that concurrent with the construction. So we feel like we're in a good place. We've done a lot of pre-planning on these sections to make sure that we can move when we're ready to move.
All right. I'm checking to see if I have anyone from my housing team on here. Bear with me. I don't see anyone. The question from Richard is, are you still planning to construct housing in the vicinity of Garson and Piedmont? I believe Richard's referring to the property we affectionately know. Gosh, my team was making fun of me. It's been a minute since I've hosted a meeting, and I've been tripping all over myself. Um, Garson Drive is what we call that project, and I'm just trying to think if there is a housing component, but the project is still active. Looking for any assistance from the team on this one.
I think you're correct. The last I heard is, I mean, there was a recent update in the news about the different lands that we own. I think it was if you go into the AJC and you search Beltline land or something like that, you're going to see updates on a lot of the housing projects, a lot of the land we
Yeah.
own, and that was one of them for sure.
Percent. And thank you on that, Jay, and thank you to Rashida who just placed a link in the chat about Garson Drive, so that should provide some additional insight for you, Richard. So that, at least for the moment,
Nathan,
does.
if you'd like for me to add to that,
Sure.
yeah, I just wanted to say that Garson Drive does have a residential and a commercial affordability component to it. So yes, that will be part of that.
Thank you so much, Laura. All right. Well, we've kind of tag teamed that one. I do have one more question here in the Q&A. The AJC, you have to subscribe. Does ABI have a reference on its own site? A reference.
Yes,
Brian,
I can put it in the link, the chat box.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, that seems to complete. Wait, one second here. Brian, I'm gonna unmute you here.
Yes, I mean just in general, like he just said about the housing and all that. Yeah, because on the AJC, yeah, you have to you gotta subscribe. And a lot of people can't afford the monthly subscription for AJC.
Yeah, we'll put the link to our housing page. It's beltline.org/live. About all of our housing information there for you, Brian. It's on our website. All right. Well, I don't have any other open questions, so we're going to go ahead and move to close out just a little bit early tonight. And we're going to do so with a few polling questions. Just a couple here, and we'll be out the door. The first one was the information presented tonight helpful? Yes or no? Stop ticking up here, so we'll go ahead and lock that in. We got 100% yes. I will gladly take that. But if you do have follow-up questions, don't hesitate to email engage@atlbeltline.org. You could throw that in the chat. That would be great. Last polling question, another simple one here for you. Did you learn something new? Yes, no, or perhaps you need more clarity. Again, if you need more clarity, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So we'll go ahead and let these responses roll in a little bit here. All right, and we will lock that in. Yes and no, and need more clarity. So, to the no's, I'm going to assume that you've been really sticking up with keeping up with the project. But for the individual who said need more clarity, do not hesitate to email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. We can move on to the next slide here. All right, so we have completed our presentation. We have completed all of our Q&A and our audience polling. I wanted to share a little contact information with you all. So, I mean, you spoke here with Jay and Megan. They are the project managers for the respective segments. I am the lead on community engagement for both of those segments. We got our email there in the chat for you. Next slide. All right, so we got you out here a little bit early. I really appreciate you guys coming out and staying plugged in. We will get notice about the closure on Ellsworth Industrial in Elaine as soon as possible, and we're excited to keep advancing the Northwest Trail. Thank you and have a wonderful night. We'll see you on the Beltline.